Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's so wonderful to be with you this morning. I am the Reverend William Levwood. My pronouns are he and him. I'm the minister here at Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. As we center ourselves for worship in person and online, I invite you to center yourselves by taking a deep breath together. We open and welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land, who live on in their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomic Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all, together, shall one day know full justice.
We do fill up, don't we? It's nice to see everybody this morning, and welcome to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Judy Robison. I'm your worship associate today. Happy to be here. My pronouns are she and her. I hope you got a name tag or you've put your name on your Zoom name tag. If you need help with that, let us know in the chat for those at home. If you aren't new to Accotink, look around. Do you see people you haven't met or you haven't spoken to in a while? These people like you and they want to meet you and talk to you. Help us live up to our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home for all by reaching out and making a connection. By visiting this congregation, newcomers are in a transition moment, and people in transitions are more open to new friendships. That means that your new best friend might be here this morning, and this is your chance to get to know them before someone else does. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage you to stay for our social hour, and online or in person, immediately after the service. We're so delighted that you decided to join us here today.
All right, welcome to the 2024 season for nonviolence. It commences on January 30th and marks the 64 calendar days between the memorial anniversary of the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi and that of Dr. Martin Luther King on April 4th. The objective is to create an awareness of nonviolent principles and practices as a powerful way to heal, transform, and empower our lives and communities. This year we will weave those practices into our annual social justice issue surrounding reproductive justice. I'd also like to invite you, if you're willing and interested, I'm going to be doing a talk on maternal mortality, which connects to Rev Lev's last month's theme. Tonight at 6:30, it's on Zoom. Check out this week. So this morning, we celebrate the season for nonviolence with these words by Janet Mock. My hope is that feminist, racial justice, reproductive rights, and LGBT movements build a coalition that centers on the lives of women who lead intersectional lives and too often fall between the cracks of these narrow mission statements.
So at this point, many of you already know that this month's theme is Liberating Love. We've been talking about it all month. It comes from the Purposes section of the proposed revision to Article 2, which concludes with this sentence stating that the Unitarian Universalist Association will actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love. So this month, we began by exploring how liberating love calls us into relationship, particularly with those people whose life experiences are different from our own. Particularly, it reminds us that if we're going to transform the world with liberating love and bring more justice and more equity, we need to be in relationship with and honoring the wisdom of whoever is most directly impacted by the particular injustice that we're wanting to address. Disability rights activists put it this way: nothing about us without us. We also looked at how, to quote the King Center, beloved community is a global vision in which all people can share in the wealth of the earth. It has these two aspects: that in beloved community, poverty, hunger, homelessness will not be tolerated. And racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. So it's important to remember both aspects of that: the inclusive multiculturalism and the reparations and the sharing of the wealth of the earth with all people. And last Sunday, we went a little more pastoral and we explored how our wounds, how our hurt places, if we lean into them, if we lean into the discomfort as part of our healing process, those very challenges become the thing that softens our hearts, allowing us to provide compassionate support to someone else when they're in need of support. Much the same way that a hollow in a tree is a home for animals to shelter in. Next month, we're going to talk about justice and equity, which is not unrelated to liberating love that transforms the world. We're going to look at what it is we're called to dismantle to bring about more justice and equity. We're going to look at what we're called to build to bring more justice and equity. We're going to talk about, in the words of John Lewis, may his memory be for a blessing, in his words, what he calls making good trouble. I'm going to give you some actual examples from members' lives of how they've made good trouble in the world that transformed the world and made more justice and equity. And then we're going to wrap up the month by looking at how the very practice of being beloved community, that very practice is in and of itself the reward, is the sustaining practice. So it's not like we're waiting until some time when we've dismantled all the injustice and built a utopian world to actually get the goods, right? And enjoy the reward. The reward is also the very work itself and how it brings us together in beloved community. Yeah? So that's what we're going to look at next month. Today we're going to wrap up Liberating Love by exploring what it means to commit to an ethic of care as an essential part of transforming the world through liberating love. What it means to put love at the center by prioritizing caring for each other, both interpersonally and through the formation or reformation of societal systems and structures rooted in this call to care for each other.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Olivia Tuggle. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the chair of the Children and Youth Spiritual Development Committee. In this heartfelt celebration of love, Newbery Medal-winning author Matt de la Peña and best-selling author Lauren Long depict the many ways we experience the universal bond which carries us from the day we are born throughout the years of our childhood and beyond. With a lyrical text, this soothing and inspiring, this tender tale is needed comfort and a new classic that will resonate with readers of every age. Love by Matt de la Peña, illustrated by Lauren Long. In the beginning, there was light, and two wide-eyed figures standing near the foot of your bed, and the sound of the voices is love. A cab driver plays love softly on his radio while you bounce in the back with the bumps of the city and everything smells new, and it smells like life. Love, too, is the smell of crashing waves and a train whistling blindly in the distance, and each night the sky above the trailer turns the color of love. In a crowded concrete park, you toddle towards summer sprinklers while older kids skip rope and run up the slide, and soon you're running among them, and the echo of your laughter is love. In the night of the fire alarm blares, you're pulled from sleep and whisked into the street, where a quiet old lady is pointing to the sky. Stars shine long after they flame out, she tells you, and the shine they shine with is love. But it's not only stars that flame out, you discover. It's summers, too, and friendship and people. One day you find your family nervously huddled around the TV, but when you ask what happened, they answered with silence and shift between you and the screen. In your dream that night, you are searching for a love that seems lost. You open and close drawers, lift cushions, empty old toy bins, but there's nothing. You wake with the start and the alarm of a loved one who bends to your ear and whispers, "It's okay, it's okay, it's love." And in time you learn to recognize love overlooked, a love that wakes at dawn and rides to work on the bus, a slice of burnt toast that tastes like love. And it's love in each deep crease of your grandfather's face as he lowers himself onto an overturned bucket to fish. And it's love in the rustling leaves of gnarled trees lined behind the lower flower fields. And it is love in the made-up stories your uncle tells in the backyard between wild horseshoe throws. And the man in rags outside the subway station plays love notes that lift into the sky like tiny beacons of light. And the face staring back in the bathroom mirror, this too is love. So when the time comes for you to set off on your own, heavy winds will sweep past your building and great gray clouds will congregate above. Your loved ones will stand there like puddles beneath their umbrellas, holding you tight and kissing you and wishing you luck. But it won't be luck you'll leave with, because you'll have love. You'll have love, love, love. Does anyone feel like we're missing something?
I do feel like we're missing something. I mean,
Yeah.
what's
What?
the gift box?
Why is that there? That's not in the script.
Yeah, I mean, we don't always use it, but if it's there,
If it's there, it must have
Kate, do you have any idea?
I don't know. I mean, I can open it. We'll see if there's something in it.
Would you open it up and see
Yeah.
if there's anything in there?
Yeah, there's nothing.
There's nothing,
Did we forget something?
or is there just nothing in it yet?
Oh, yeah, that might be it, yeah.
Because now, through the Sunday after Valentine's Day, this box will be where we can exchange Valentines with each other. Our gift box is becoming a literal Valentine's gift box.
So we can keep this month's theme of liberating love going, right? I brought some Valentines for it already.
Oh, good on you.
But what if I didn't bring a Valentine with me today?
Oh, I mean, because you didn't know about this, right? So you probably didn't bring a Valentine with you today. That's a good question. If you didn't bring one today, you can bring one next time, right? Because it's going to happen for a few weeks. Also, there's a table out in the gallery with supplies where you can make or write your own. No need to put your name on it. Just open your heart and share with others in our beloved community. And if you see a Valentine in the box that speaks to you, take freely as well.
So we want everyone from newcomers to longtime members to those of us in between to be able to participate. You're welcome to do so. And if you won't be visiting in person for service or for one of our upcoming movie nights or other events, check out this week, and there'll be some instructions for people who are not in person to be able to participate as well.
Now, some of you might think that Valentine's Day is all about romance, but these Valentines can be about all the different kinds of love. You can share quotes, you can share Taylor Swift song lyrics, or any song lyrics. You can share my personal favorite terrible dad jokes. You could even, inspired by our story, you could draw a sunset for someone as an image of love, or the sprinklers that people play in the summer. Okay, really, you can make origami or paper flowers. Your imagination is the limit of what you can do.
And how long is this going to be up?
This is going to be here. You get creative and share your love. You've got until February 18th, okay? So
The Sunday after Valentine's
three
Day.
more Sundays. Yeah, the Sunday after Valentine's Day. Yeah, so if you miss Valentine's Day, don't miss Valentine's Day, but if you miss Valentine's Day, you can just tell the person that it's in the gift box for them. So some of you may already know that for many years I was a preschool teacher, an early childhood educator. I did that before I went to seminary. That's how I put myself through seminary, was working as a preschool teacher while I was in seminary. It's also what I did during my part-time 2-year internship at a congregation while I was training to be a minister. So 8 years in total as a preschool teacher. And I have to say that I'm very grateful for my seminary education. Star King School for the Ministry, one of only 2 Unitarian Universalist seminaries in the country. And also, I think we're still catching up from how ministry used to be done, kind of like that ivory tower intellectual focus, which is important because it gives deep theological roots, but not always so much of the practical. So I have to say, and this is actually kind of a side note, but I have to say, I learned more as a preschool teacher about how to be a leader in community than I learned in my seminary education, or really from anything else I've done in my life. Because you have to listen. The weather is always changing. Like on any given morning, you don't know exactly what is going to play out in that classroom. So you're always listening, and then you're responding to what is emerging and supporting what's emerging. So that's maybe the other thing that I want to really get into, is that as a preschool teacher, you make a rich learning environment. You have literacy opportunities. There are books and words. On the refrigerator, it says refrigerator. There's opportunities to do math and to build with blocks, or these days with magnet tiles or Legos. But that isn't really the focus of preschool, because developmentally, what's important is the socio-emotional development, the interpersonal development of the child at that time. So the focus is really on that. And another way to say that is the focus is on care, on providing care to the children, and on stewarding, supporting, facilitating the children caring for each other. And even though, I know it's important that then we move on to other stages in our development, and we need to learn our letters, and we need to learn algebra, and so on and so forth. We need to learn our history, our true history, fully and completely. Can I get an amen? Yeah. Got some work to do on that one still. And some work to make sure that we're able to still do that. But I think that focus on care, and there are care ethicists, Nell Noddings in particular, who has really focused on the fact that caring relationship, that relationship of mutuality, is the foundation for all learning and needs to continue in the classroom throughout the educational experience. So that's the first aspect that I want to talk about with you, about approaching life from an ethic of care, of approaching the idea of what liberating love is from this idea that maybe is counterintuitive. I think we think of liberating love that transforms the world as like the protest marches and the legislative advocacy, and of course it is that. But it's also the everyday moments with each other. It's also the parenting and the grandparenting. It's the friendships. It's how we show up and that we put love at the center. Even when we're doing the legislative work, we put love at the center. We make sure we're caring for each other and the relationships that make the work happen. There are so many other things we could put at the center. And in our society, there are other things that get put at the center, but it's not profit or productivity or even excellence, academic or otherwise, that we should be putting at the center. It's love. It's love that we put at the center of our Unitarian Universalism, and it's love and care that we need to make central in everything. In our politics, in our economics, in our medical fields, in everything. And so that's about the approach, right? So part of the ethic of care, one side of it is the approach that we bring to each moment, every interaction, placing the relationship and the act of caring at the center. When we practice love, Spirit fills the earth. Yeah? Amen. The other thing, though, is that we have to give resources to caring. We have to, part of the reason I'm not a preschool teacher, not a small reason actually, is because I couldn't support a family as a preschool teacher, and I wanted to have my own family. So we need to give resources to the caring professions. It's no accident. I almost feel like I don't even have to say this, but just to put it out there, it's no accident that the caring professions historically are professions that have been done by women and or by marginalized people, okay? So that devaluation continues in how we resource and pay for healthcare workers, how we pay for teachers, how we pay for sanitation workers, right? Imagine if the sanitation stopped happening, right? That'd be a problem, and yet we don't give it the value. When I was taking an early childhood class, training to be a preschool teacher, I gave a presentation where I suggested that we pay early childhood educators what we pay lawyers. And we pay lawyers what we pay early childhood educators. And I did that because the research shows that if caring relationships are present 0 to 3, especially, and 0 to 5 as well, then the children don't grow up to do crime. Whereas the lawyer, by the time the lawyer's there, it's already done. It's already over. The crime already did or didn't happen, and we're just trying to figure out how to go from there. So we need to give resources to caring professions and also to unpaid caring labor. We need to figure out how do we support our families. Right now, speaking of legislative advocacy, we might be able to get the expansion of the child tax credit back that was expanded during the pandemic and cut child poverty in half. And then it was allowed to expire. Our politicians who represent us, who are supposed to serve us, let it expire. And now is the time to tell them to bring it back. I don't know, there's that old story about, walking both ways up the hill in the snow to get to school, right? Like that things were harder in the past, but when it comes to caring professions and parenting, it seems to me like it's gotten worse. That we have gutted our social service systems and the resources for them, and that it's that much harder today for parents to focus on parenting, and providing support to their children. That's because of rising wealth inequality, in part. It goes even further back in the fact that we don't necessarily have the village, right? We've atomized ourselves so much that we don't have the village to support each other. There's a nomadic society culture in Tanzania where everyone cares for the children. The whole community cares for the children. The mother still cares the most. My memory is that the mother they found provides, how much of the care do you think? Anybody? 45, 50%? What do y'all think? My memory is it's 25%. And that's the person who's providing, like the single person who's providing the most. So it's spread, the other 75% is spread out among lots and lots of other people, including older children, including youth providing care. And the whole community kind of keeping an eye on everybody. So those are the two aspects. It's about how we do the thing, right? Are we, if we're a nurse, are we coming at it from an ethic of care? Are we putting love at the center as we do the work? And are we given the resources to really do that? Or are we having to do so many double shifts and have so many patients on our caseload that even though we want to put love at the center, we can't possibly provide the care that we so desperately want to provide, which then is a moral injury on the person providing care. Because they go home thinking, wow, I couldn't have done what I know I should do and should be able to do to provide the care that people deserve. So those are the two aspects. An approach rooted in love, centered in love, and resources at the larger societal level that provide us the capacity to care. The capacity to care. 2 weeks ago, I shared from Poverty by America, the book by Matthew Desmond, all the ways that poverty is not just a line. It has actual, tangible, and horrific effects on people's lives. Physical pain, instability with jobs and housing that they can't depend on and that they're scrambling to get. Cognitive capacity that's diminished, right? I mentioned what's called the bandwidth tax, that you don't have the ability, particularly to do long-range planning that might get you out of poverty because you're too caught up with that emergency, just like we all are when an emergency happens. But if you're poor, emergency cascades upon emergency, cascades upon emergency. After I was a preschool teacher, I was a chaplain resident, and I thought Job was just a story in the Bible, but it's not. I met people in the hospital who had had health scare upon health scare, death upon death in their families, just cascading on top of them. And often that was not unrelated to disparities in their health care due to poverty, right? That they couldn't get the care when they needed it. Their loved ones couldn't get the care when they needed it, and so they didn't, and so it got worse and worse and worse. So we need those resources so that people have the capacity to care. And to do that, this is the societal piece, right? We need to put love at the center in all of our social systems and structures. And I haven't talked yet about what love means, but in the book, The Care Manifesto, the authors, it's a collaborative book, so there's multiple authors, they define care as mutual flourishing in a web of interdependencies. Now, I hope that sounds familiar to some of y'all. Because currently we have our 7 principles, right? But I bet most of you couldn't recite all 7. But you probably could recite the first and the 7th. That we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and that we honor the interdependent web of all existence, of all life. And in our new proposed values, those are still there, right? Honoring the interdependent web under the value of interdependence. And I think personally, I think we improve it in the value of equity, because we don't just talk about affirming and promoting inherent worth and dignity. We talk about how each person's inherent dignity and worthiness calls us to make sure that they are flourishing. Okay? So I talked about this way back in November. I think there's another piece of this puzzle that is theological and crucial for us to keep in mind. Part of the issue with creating this ethic of care at the societal level is that we have, and it stays even when we don't explicitly believe it. So I don't explicitly believe this, but implicitly I act from this theology a fair amount of the time. That I'm a separate individual, and you're a separate individual, and I can receive care from you, or I can give care to you. As opposed to this web of interdependencies in which every time I give care, I'm receiving care at the same time through that relationship. Every time I receive care, I'm giving love back to the person who's giving care to me. And when we start to think of it that way, it changes the whole paradigm, right? But we are rooted in this idea that we're actually, on some level, just motivated by selfish impulses. We're just out to get our own. We're really not about mutual flourishing. We're just about our own flourishing. And that's actually okay. And this magic hand of the free market is going to raise all boats. But it's not, right? Because, I mean, there's two ways to look at this, okay? One is that it's not because we're practicing free market. You know, we are more and more practicing free market capitalism. And the wealth inequality is not diminishing, right? It diminished when we had the New Deal, right? It diminished when we had more social services and less free market capitalism. I also think it's important to say that maybe free market capitalism would work. I'd love to try it. I'd love for us not to subsidize the beef industry and the oil industry and the corporations, right? And have them actually have to compete with free market capitalism, and then maybe we could see if it really works, right? But we're not even doing it. But that's part of the problem, maybe, with free market capitalism, is once you have a lot of money, you can use that money to get unfair advantages for yourself. But to come back to this idea that we're selfish, I mean, we're selfish. I mean, sometimes, in some ways, we're selfish. But if we start to look at that mutuality, the relationship of mutuality that happens when we're involved in love, it's okay that we're selfish if that selfishness is enacted in a relationship of care and love, right? Because then I'm getting my needs met. That's okay, right? But I'm getting my needs met while I'm also meeting the other person's needs. While I'm honoring the fact that I'm not wholly a separate individual, a separate self, but I am formed by the world around me, and I'm supported by the world around me. We see that in our Time for All Ages story in so many places. Like, does the cab driver just want to get money, the Uber driver, or is there a joy in helping people get where they need to go? Does the hospital worker just want money, or is there a joy in providing that service? I mean, it's amazing how caring our societies already are. Like, it's not a given that we would have schools and hospitals and all of this. We do that not just for the money, not just for the profit, not just for our own selfishness. We do it because the other thing that's true about human nature is that altruism is core to who we are. that cooperation, collaboration, and compassion and love is core to who we are. That we probably wouldn't survive if we didn't have that group cohesion that comes from being members of an interdependent community that supports each other. So the last thing I want to just mention, I just mentioned how our society does have care, right? From the moment we show up, we're being provided with care. We're being flooded with love, surrounded by love. I mean, it's something we should not forget, right? How much love is around us, even though we want to work to put the focus there even more and put love at the center. But I also want to say that it's not just a human thing that love comes from, that it's around us in the sunset, it's around us in the rain, it's around us in the foods that nourish our bodies, the plants that are the medicines that we use to heal ourselves when we're ill. It's in all of that as well. So from the very beginning, and you could say like the nature of the world is to practice love, is to be filled with that spirit of love. And that is liberating love. So let's take the approach, remind ourselves, find those moments where we think that, oh, we should be led by something other than love in this moment. But we're maybe not noticing that we're doing that, right? But implicitly we've got that free market capitalism or that profit motive or that productivity motive or that like I should be excellent and perfect motive. Let's find those moments and let's put love at the center. And at the same time, let's do the advocacy work to make a society that puts that love at the center structurally, systemically, so we have the capacity to do that, to put love at the center. So we have the resources to actually embody love when we are called to. May it be so, and may we be among those who make it so. Amen, 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 and blessed be.